Hello and welcome to part 2 of our two-part ERP Buyer's Guide series. Today we will be getting into the details of how to plan for a successful NetSuite implementation. If you missed part 1 of this series, a complete NetSuite ERP walkthrough, then please contact us at info@grusolutions.com or check out the resources section of our website at grusolutions.com/resources. To open up today's session, we will review the advantages of the NetSuite platform and walk through a demonstration of the platform. After that, we will get into the details of what to expect during your NetSuite implementation and how to plan for success even before your project has gotten underway. Of course, we'll review the advantage of working with gurus and finally open up for a general Q&A at the end. With that in mind, please do list any questions or comments in the chat throughout the presentation so that we can circle back to them at the end. Now, let's review some of the key advantages of the NetSuite platform and explain why it's the last platform that your organization will ever need. NetSuite's role-based business intelligence allows your organization to control who sees what information within the system and how. Due to all these roles using the same database, everyone will have the most up-to-date information in real time. However, we have the control to restrict access to information as necessary. For instance, a sales rep may only be able to see their own customers, whereas a CEO or CFO would have a global view of all financials in the organization. The advantage here is that each department relies on the same up-to-date data instead of working in silos, which increases productivity and reduces the errors that come with duplicating data across departmental databases that exist in other systems. In NetSuite, the end user can optimize their own experience in the system by changing their own dashboard, reminders, navigation shortcuts, and any visualizations of data they have access to in the instance. They also can create their own searches that facilitate their day-to-day activities. Additionally, any functional user in NetSuite can automate their own workflow without touching a line of code using the SuiteFlow process engine. In our demonstration, we'll see this with a purchase request and approval workflow. These same functional users can also create their own custom reports, add fields, and even create new data types as custom records. This is a key strength of NetSuite as a platform, as your organization's internal functional users can perform any of these tasks without knowing how to code. Now, we've spoken about the platform itself and some of the tools it provides. However, as we choose to add industry-specific modules to NetSuite, we can rest assured that the added functionality they provide is based on over 20 years of leading practices across many industries. At Gurus, we assist you in navigating which modules will provide the best return on investment based on your industry, but also based on your organization's specific needs. And NetSuite provides a set of modules for every role. At its core, NetSuite is a financial system of record, and we have additional modules that could be used no matter your industry, such as financial management for budgeting, expense allocation, and amortization, dunning letters to automate collections emails, and even OneWorld when managing a multi-company or even multinational organization across many jurisdictions. This is, of course, pertinent to the C-suite, finance, and the IT admin within the organization, who could manage user permissions across multiple companies with OneWorld. Within the retail and distribution industry, we have specific modules to manage inventory and procurement activities, which of course are pertinent to managers across operations and purchasing, as well as within the warehouse. To supplement those inventory capabilities, the manufacturing modules allow companies to process work orders, create assemblies, and manage manufacturing routing operations as raw materials go through WIP to a finished product. There is also advanced manufacturing capabilities in NetSuite to allow for capacity planning across work centers, all of which facilitate the day-to-day activities of the roles affected in retail and distribution, but also now the engineering or product departments of an organization. For service organizations, NetSuite provides modules for project management, job costing, and resource allocation or planning, which of course assists project managers, project resources, and accounting. Software companies can benefit from suite billing and contract renewals, which assist teams in sales operations and billing, whereas software management as a module assists the customer service and support team in tracking and resolving product issues while allowing for electronic distribution of software. Shared among service and software companies would be the revenue management module, allowing for automated revenue recognition for projects and software contracts. As you can see, NetSuite as a platform is supplemented with industry-specific modules for every role, and each of these modules continue to be enhanced with every biannual release, meaning the platform truly grows based on leading practices in each industry, and also by the investment that your organization puts into it to automate and optimize your team's efforts. All right, now let's jump into the workflow demonstration where we're going to be beginning with a purchase request and then have it approved by a supervisor. And that supervisor is then going to jump straight into the rest of the procure-to-pay process by creating a bill from the purchase order and paying the bill. We're going to be doing this in under 10 minutes, so keep in mind this is just how streamlined your processes could be. Today we're going to be using a NetSuite SuiteSuccess Financials First instance, and what that means is that the instance comes pre-configured with leading practices for financial processes. We also have pre-built roles, dashboards, reports, and saved searches. What this means for you is you go live sooner with less implementation cost because we start with these as the foundation in order to build towards your exact business needs and requirements. Now, to demonstrate the use case we talked about before with the purchase request and approval, we have two roles I'm going to be using today. The first of which is Matthew Wright, an accounting analyst who's going to be requesting a purchase. And then I'm going to be switching into an accounting manager role, which would be Matthew's supervisor. Now, of course, this would be two different employees. Before we go into that, though, I'm going to just review the dashboard and what we see in front of us. Now, anywhere in NetSuite, I'll always have the global search bar. This is where I can Google the suite. So for instance, if I were to search Smith, I'm going to get matches on multiple record types, whether it be employees, customers, or contacts. I can filter down this list, though. I could enter customer, and I would see only customers. Now keep in mind, I can also use the shorthand. I could just use CU for the record type, and I still get that matching on customer. The same is true of employee. Now I would only see matches on employee. So we can find really any information we need in NetSuite very easily from the global search bar. Now in order to create records on the fly, I have my quick add menu. And this is also personalizable by the end user, so I can change my experience without having to contact my administrator. Beside this, I have a self-service portal with help articles and documentation on really how to use NetSuite for my day-to-day processes. Now, every user has access to this, so they won't need to ask an administrator how to change their experience or maybe just how a certain process works in NetSuite. We also have user guides, training videos, and even the NetSuite user forum called Suite Answers, where anyone can post answers to solutions they found within NetSuite. Now, the next bar below is our navigation bar, and it begins with our recent records breadcrumb trail. So we can go backwards to previous records we've accessed in the instance. Beside this, we have a shortcuts bar. We can personalize this ourselves for the role we're using. And we have our home dashboard. And we can see here I have a home dashboard configured with portlets for reminders, navigation tiles, key performance indicators, trends, and even KPI meters. Beside this, we also have centers. Now, each of these centers is essentially a collection of links and categories. So for instance, if I were to go over the reporting center, I'm going to see categories for my recent reports, my saved reports, as well as, let's say, for instance, financial reports that I'd want to access. But if this isn't the view I'd like to have of my information or my links, I can actually click on the center itself and see a dashboard view. Now, when we see all these categories, it's the same that we saw in that list, but now we see it obviously in a portlet. Now NetSuite, as I mentioned, comes pre-configured with hundreds of reports and saved searches. So we can start from these before trying to build something from scratch. Now I'm back to my home dashboard. Let's say that I wanted to add one of my own dashboard portlets, and I wanted to configure it myself. I can personalize this dashboard, and I have many different types of standard content to choose from. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to add a report snapshot, front and center on the top of my dashboard. NetSuite's going to just select the first in the list of possible reports. In this case, it's the comparative sales. And we can see I could change which periods I'm comparing. Now, if I want to see this differently, I do have options. And I can even zoom in to anywhere I'd like on this report to really get a comparison of where we were over time with more granular detail. And I can reset as well. If I want to remove this, I can remove it myself. So really, at the end user level, we can change our experience on the fly. Now let's get into our purchase request flow by starting a purchase order from the Quick Add menu. Here we have a purchase order form. And what I'm going to do is just find the vendor that I'd like to create the purchase order for, which in this case is AAA Consulting. I'm going to be purchasing some third-party services from AAA Consulting. And I'm going to classify this as a location at US1. And in this case, I could add any information I'd like to. I could change the currency or the subsidiary, etc. Then when I want to add my expenses, I have two options. I can add the expenses as their own sublist, or I can add items in particular. Now in this case, I'm going to search for any of the matching items for third party. We can see here that I have third-party services as my third option. Now, based on setting up our items in advance, we can actually default a lot of the rates, the quantities, and even the classification of these items, and this impacts the GL as well. Now, let's say that I wanted to manually set the department that I'd like to see on my reports. I can do that. Let's say that this was an operational expense, and I can add it. Now, what's going to happen, based on the workflow and how it was set up in the background, this approval status is something that I can't change. This purchase order is going to enter a pending approval state, and it's going to require submission to my supervisor in order to get it to be approved and for us to continue with the billing process. Let's say that I save this purchase order at this point. I could still come back to it based on how the workflow is configured. And then when I'm finished, I can submit it for approval. Now, you can see that the buttons I did have access to are gone, and that's because the workflow removed the buttons based on the status and based on clicking that Submit for Approval button. Now, at this point, what's interesting to see is that whether it's a non-posting or posting transaction, NetSuite's always going to provide the GL impact for a transaction. You can see here that we have the accounts impacted, the debits, credits, and amounts, as well as whether it's posting or non-posting. We also have the classification based on the vendor name, the subsidiary, and the other classification criteria. For instance, we added operations, the item itself was a Class B item, and we're making this transaction for US location 1. I could export this if I wanted to manipulate it, or export it as a CSV or Excel document. Now, switching into my accounting manager role, I already have a reminder on my dashboard that's going to immediately show me the purchase request that Matthew had submitted to me, Sarah Torrance, his accounting manager. So coming down to my reminders here, I see the purchase request to approve. And I've already filtered this down so I only see the most recent and that single one that I created. Instead of selecting this and submitting it for approval, I'd like to actually see what's within this purchase request. So I can click on the date. Now we see that my view on this transaction is different than Matthew's. I can see the approval and rejection buttons. At this point, of course, I could reject with comments, and then we could re-enter the approval workflow and continue iterating on that. But at this point, I'd say this looks pretty good. I'm ready to approve it. And of course, the workflow in the back end has been configured to send an email that's templated directly to Matthew to tell him that it's been approved. And we can see beneath the communications subtab that email has already been attached. Now, it's a very simple email, and we can, of course, customize this template in any way you would need. But we're just telling him that his purchase order has been approved. Now, keep in mind that every step of the process here, NetSuite is tracking all of the field changes and record changes beneath the system information and system notes. So we can see that Matthew created this transaction. He set all of these fields. And then, of course, Sarah changed the status so that instead of pending supervisor approval, we're pending receipt and actually pending bill. And that's based on the workflow that pushed it through the statuses after a simple button click. Now, at this point, we'd actually be ready to bill the purchase order. Now, what I want to do is I want to print out an example of this purchase order, and I'm going to attach that to my bill after. So to do that, I'm going to click the print button here. I'm going to open a new tab, and we're going to see the PDF template that was configured to be used on this form. Now, the same as the email templates, we can configure these PDF templates however you wish. Exactly the way that your PDF templates look, we can match that. What I'm going to do is download this, save it in my downloads, and we're going to use this in a future step. Now, as an accounting manager, I know that this service has been fulfilled and I've received a bill. So I'm going to transform this purchase order into a bill without keying in any information a second time. We can see that on the billing form, I do have a couple other fields available to me, including an account or even a next approver field if I wanted to enter another workflow. Now in this case, I'm going to actually supersede any of those approval workflows, and I'm going to set this to approve because I know that I'm the one creating it and I'm the one with that authority. Additionally, down in the other subtabs, we can see here that this bill is going to have the correct terms that are automated from the vendor record. So for instance, Net30 is typically what I have with my vendor, AAA Consulting. So I'm going to make sure I save it in that way so that I know that's how I'm going to be paying out this bill in the future. And finally, let's say that we wanted to attach that file. What I can do is go beneath the Communication subtab. I can go to Files, and here I'll be able to attach the file from my local computer. Choose File here, and we see. And I can choose that most recent purchase order as a PDF, and I can attach it as soon as I choose a folder. And in this case, I'm going to choose my Attachments Received folder. Now we have the attachment beneath the bill, and we can save. Now we can see that the buttons have changed again because the leading practice in NetSuite, of course, is going to show us, can I credit this bill? Should I make a payment on this bill, etc. Of course, we still have the GL impact in the back end. So this transaction has been moved down the procure to pay timeline. Now, if I were to return to my home dashboard, I actually have a portlet that's going to allow me to jump straight into my AP aging report. Right here on the navigation tiles up at the top, I have an AP aging navigation tile. Now, within my AP aging summary, we're going to notice that I already have, looks like more than just my $1,000 bill for AAA Consulting. Now, I can see the detail report here, or I can go straight to the vendor record to see what other transactions do I have with this vendor. Now, there's more than one way to look at this vendor record. Of course, we do have our general information like the address or the name of the vendor, as well as some of the contact information, for instance, down here. And this can be automatically used in our communications with the vendor. Now, let's say that instead of going through all these subtabs, I wanted to see something in a more dashboard view. I can do that. So now we're seeing a vendor dashboard with the same information, but displayed in portlets. You see all of our transactions down here. And if we return to our previous screen, we actually have a sublist called the Vendor 360 that organizes the majority of our financial information related to this vendor in one place. So we're going to notice that our open bills and credits does include our most recent PO, 221, just as we created it. Now, from the vendor record, we could go and pay multiple bills that were created or open. So for instance, if I click Make Payment, I'm going to be brought to a bill payment screen, and I'd be able to pay multiple bills at the same time from the vendor record to this screen and after. So in this case, we're going to be paying with a check number here, but I could be sending this off to ACH, and I could be using electronic bank payments with NetSuite. Now, this can be used to directly send that bank file to your bank, and they'll be making the transfers as necessary. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to mark all of these bills and pay them with one bill payment. And there really isn't much more to do, so we're going to save. So now I've registered a bill payment, and I've really completed the entire procure-to-pay process in minutes. Now, we even started with a purchase request and the approval workflow. So we can tailor this workflow to your organization's needs across the purchase request and approval, through to the billing approvals, all the way through to billing payments, and of course, to get that bank file out to your bank and process the transfers. If you have any questions or comments about anything demonstrated here, please feel free to message us in the chat and we can circle back during the Q&A. Let's get into the details of what to expect in your NetSuite implementation and what your organization should be planning both internally and with your NetSuite partner. In our last webinar, we reviewed the Gurus methodology and key tools we use to de-risk your project in terms of planning, transparency, and execution. At Gurus, we guide our customers through these stages with our platform and industry expertise to best suit your business and your team's bandwidth by balancing budget, schedule, and your internal resources. Importantly, there are different ways of looking at a project as it progresses. For instance, a project manager would likely prefer to look at the schedule of a project as a critical path that begins with pre-sale and discovery, progresses in the assessment, and then the implementation of NetSuite based on requirements. Then at Gurus, we conduct a pre-go live and go live preparation to bring your team onto NetSuite. Thereafter, we typically support you for the first period or quarter end closing process, and finally, move towards other initiatives that your organization and our team have outlined together as the project progressed in future support and optimization phases. This is the ride from a project manager's view of schedule and completion of deliverables. However, it's important to consider that throughout the phases, there will be plenty of ups and downs for your organization as you go through the digital transformation process and adopt to both the technology and the improved processes that were outlined in the assessment phase with your project team. The reality of the workload and emotions that may be felt as your organization goes through these changes can vary greatly from project to project. And as such, we can view this more of a roller coaster of emotions, expectations, and workloads. In the beginning, everyone will be excited to take on the project and get onto the new platform, as they should be. They'll begin to see the possibilities of what their new day-to-day activities will look like and all the advantages the platform will provide once configured and tested. We all be ready to kick off the project with the assessment and not yet have much of a workload related to the project. So everyone will be expecting to continue their day-to-day activities as per usual as the system is implemented. Some requirements may be better placed in a future phase as each department moves onto the platform, which would be decided with your project team based on the goals of the first phase, as well as the budget, schedule, and the bandwidth of the resources from your organization that will be able to be involved. NetSuite offers enormous advantages in terms of its modules and feature set, making just about any type of automation possible. However, some things that were completely customized and automated over months or years in a previous system may be planned for future phases. This means it's important to set expectations appropriately, as opposed to expecting every role in an organization to receive the maximum benefit from the platform on day one after go live. At Gurus, our collaborative implementation methodology involves us challenging a current process if we see better options based on our expertise regarding the leading practices across different industries. As such, we want you to get the maximum benefit from the platform and also from your organization's employees, which means we'll suggest ways to optimize your business processes as you move on to NetSuite. As an ERP project consists of thousands of tasks and decisions, you need a partner that will be able to assist you in navigating these to maximize your ROI from the platform. Some requirements reveal themselves as projects progress, and collaboratively, our goal is to continue to revise the project plan as we implement NetSuite, so that as we iterate, we can still balance budget and schedule to successfully go live. There is plenty of work to complete while migrating from a legacy system to a new system. And during the training and cutover period, it will require more bandwidth than usual as your organization continues to operate on the legacy system but prepares for the new system. Delays do happen, and sometimes it may feel like go live is being pushed out, but with proper planning with your internal team, this can be avoided. With low bandwidth from adopting the new system and preparing your teams, you might ask yourself, is the project worth it? But this is right before your teams become accustomed to their new day-to-day, and finally, won't imagine a world before NetSuite because of the advantages over your previous systems. Now let's cover the 4 crucial aspects of an implementation that organizations often overlook. There's no escaping that most successful implementations require hard work, and this can often mean taking on 50% of the work within your key process owners within the project. You can expect this project to disrupt daily operations, especially as you approach go live and preparation is essential to success. Keep in mind that those key process owners should be your A team, those who know the business and are required to run it. so that high-impact decisions can be made in a timely and effective manner. The key takeaways here are to plan ahead for disruptions and to backfill for your A team so that operations can continue with as little disruption as possible. Secondly, data migration is often overlooked and is absolutely critical to get right during an implementation. This is because within any system, there are relationships between your organization's data, and perhaps even some cleanup to do before putting it into a new system. This can make this task laborsome. However, fortunately at Gurus, we combat the risks and effort required by mapping out a data migration strategy with your team, as well as documenting a plan for the exact export, cleaning, and import process so that you can rest assured that all the structure and relationships of your data have been considered when bringing them onto NetSuite. In order to go live in the first phase, the best practice would be to only migrate the data you need to operate, and to start the data cleaning process as early as you can so that it does not hold up the project or the go live. A third crucial aspect of a NetSuite implementation is when to automate versus when to start with a manual process. Let me explain what I mean by that. Automation is perfect for low labor tasks that are completed in high volume, as they reduce human error and effort. However, the core system will likely automate many manual tasks on day one, meaning that aiming for maximum automation by deciding to plan for every single use case that the system could automate will greatly increase implementation cost, and your organization will need to conduct a thorough analysis of the current manual processes prior to automating them, which will delay go live and even result in users being less trained on the typical workflow they may use in order to cash or procure to pay, due to the automation taking the reins in their day-to-day. This is why at Gurus we evaluate the processes that are worth automating, partially or even completely for the first phase during project planning, and even throughout the implementation as the project progresses. Although this may mean more mouse clicks on day one, we have many ways of preventing user error in NetSuite, even when conducting manual business processes. For instance, by making fields mandatory or rejecting certain inputs when invalid. By combining some level of control and by maintaining many user-driven processes, we're able to reduce the cost of implementation and allow for better handling of complex processes. This eases the effort of the implementation in general and allows us to automate thereafter once the system is live. The key takeaway here is that time spent trying to automate may not actually pay off, as you may decide to move to a different business process thereafter, and the investment into automating may be lost. This is why it is better to build ROI based on measurement of a business goal, such as orders processed per day or the number of orders that need to be corrected, rather than the perceptions of what automation could do, but maybe would not actually impact the business goals. As mentioned, it is often better to start manual to reduce implementation costs and prevent a delayed go-live, as automation is still possible as the system grows with you after go-live. And finally, there will be automation on day one, but there could be edge cases that will be more cost-effective to have an employee handle rather than trying to build in automation. This is what we call managing by exception and is a key advantage of using a system like NetSuite. This is because edge cases can change from day to day, and the system is there to make your employees more effective by managing by exception instead of having to repeat the process of a typical use case all day. Finally, the fourth crucial aspect to consider is that go live is only the beginning. The roller coaster ride to go live will be well worth it for the gains in efficiency across your organization. And by planning to have a continuous future effort into optimizing your business processes and tailoring NetSuite to make your organization more effective will allow your business to grow with NetSuite. This will be the last system migration your organization will have to go through. So instead of thinking about maintenance or IT system upgrades, you can focus on running your business and setting even more ambitious goals as an organization with the NetSuite platform supporting you. Now let's review the advantages of working with Gurus for your NetSuite implementation. Over the past 14 years of proven process, we have refined our flexible mode of engagement so that you can have control of the timeline, budget, and how your internal resources will contribute to a project, which, as we mentioned before, is crucial to project success. As the largest and most certified NetSuite bench in North America, we complete 100% of our projects in-house and use no offshore resources. When connecting NetSuite to other systems, we have a fully certified and experienced integrations team to support your needs. And even after go live, we provide ongoing account management in tandem with our dedicated support team of consultants and developers to respond quickly to any requests or optimizations you may be planning for. and it is due to our experience and focus on customer satisfaction that we've been able to maintain a 5-star status with Oracle NetSuite since 2005. Now, we are so confident in our ability to implement NetSuite that we guarantee you'll be able to run your business on NetSuite or we'll give you your money back. Please feel free to reach out for details on this as we'll be providing contact info before the Q&A. Remember what we mentioned about how to plan for a successful go-live? This is due to the planning process we conduct with our organization to strategically plan out the core implementation and follow-on phases of optimization. Our workshare methodology is both cost-effective and increases user adoption based on decisions that you are in control of, such as budget, timeline, and the availability of your resources. This collaborative approach sets us apart as your NetSuite partner. Even more so, over the past 14 years, we have amassed expertise across all industries and have experts who have developed solutions within their industry of expertise, which include our container management solution or our engineering to order solutions, to name a few. And finally, we conduct all of our implementations with a completely transparent project management approach, so that your organization is always up to date on budget, scope, and timeline with weekly status reports. At Guru Solutions, we have delivered over 2,100 projects and have over 600 active clients. We scale up business with cloud solutions. And if you'd like to know more about how to navigate the current landscape in cloud technology, please reach out and we'll be able to provide a copy of a book that our CEO, Martin McNichol, wrote on future-proofing your business. Now, let's review the key takeaways from today's session. First, don't overlook the work required. Prepare your team and have a backfill strategy as your A team is involved in the project. Secondly, don't underestimate data migration. This is a large undertaking and often overlooked when considering proposals from partners. Be sure to see data migration activities in the proposals you consider, or you could be in for a surprise. Third, plan the first phase to go live, but of course, plan to continue to automate in future phases. This allows for an easier implementation with less cost and effort. Finally, remember that Go Live is only the first phase of your implementation, so it's important to set goals for phase 1 and beyond. Thank you for attending. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and if you missed part 1, please leave your contact information in the chat, email us, or call us at the number below, and we'll provide access. Also reach out if you'd like more information about any of the content presented today, including the demo, our methodology, our money-back guarantee, or to get a copy of our CEO's book on how to future-proof your business with technology. Now I'll be opening up the session for Q&A. Please don't hesitate to type your question in the chat or unmute yourself and ask your question out loud. Thank you.